Well, it happened again, folks. The Houston Rockets have just been eliminated from the NBA playoffs and still have not been able to win an NBA championship. You guys read the title of the video. And what's next for the Houston Rockets after being, eliminated by the Los Angeles Lakers? Now, that's obviously not the full title, but you guys get the idea. Anyways, you guys know what to do. Like the video if you guys did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Share this channel with any NFL and NBA fans you know. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. It would be greatly appreciated. And comment down below your video ideas. That way I can provide you guys with the videos you want. And with all of that being said, well, let's get started. And I do want to say that this video is unscripted. So sorry if I do, mess up any words, or if I jumble them, or if I don't remember anything. But with all that being said, let's get started. The 2019 offseason was a crazy one for the Houston Rockets, to say the least. They acquired borderline superstar point guard Russell Westbrook from the Oklahoma City Thunder as they traded away Chris Paul, breaking up the Chris Paul and James Harden duo after just 2 years. Many people were doubtful about whether they could work together, as both of their play styles, they didn't necessarily mesh well. How else do I put it? And I personally thought this duo could still do pretty good. And for a while, those doubters did look kind of correct. The Houston Rockets, while they were still doing good as a team, they have been doing for a long time. Well, Russell Westbrook wasn't exactly playing well. However, in December, after a few months of bad play, he started to pick things up finally. And in January, he was very good. And soon enough, he started playing some of the best basketball of his career and started cutting down on turnovers, his mistakes, started just focusing on what he's good at, and really just stuff like that. And Houston eventually pulled off a crazy move in which they gave up their only big man in Clint Capella to the Atlanta Hawks. However, they were able to acquire Robert Covington, and they decided to run a micro ball lineup with Russell Westbrook at the 1, James Harden at the 2, Daniel House at the 3, PJ Tucker at the 5, and Robert Covington at the 4. Now, the order was not perfect, but anyways, with all that being said, well, many people were doubtful about this micro ball lineup working, as they would be out rebounded, as you guys can imagine, and I was doubtful about it. However, they did kind of silence doubters, as on the day of the trade deadline, after pulling off that move, they would face the Los Angeles Lakers, and they would beat the Los Angeles Lakers. It was going fine. However, before the season did get suspended, the Houston Rockets were playing very bad. However, this hiatus gave them a chance to regroup and, just kind of adjust and, make better, how do I put it? Just improve as a team, I guess. Anyways, you guys see the idea. Basically just regroup and review. Anyways, with all of that being said, in the bubble, they started playing very well, as their defense was very good, despite not having a traditional big man, I guess, or just a true big man. Anyways, with all of that being said, they would beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round after a grueling 7-game series, and then they would face the Los Angeles Lakers, and after an impressive Game 1 win, things would go south, as they would drop the next 4 games, and eventually they would lose in 5. And I got to admit, I am pretty sad. I really like James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and I am big fans of those players. And I wanted Houston to win this series. No offense to any Laker fans, but I think you guys, I guess you might get it. But with all of that being said, now Houston's eliminated yet again, which now brings the question, what do they do now? Let's first touch on the coach, Mike D'Antoni. Now, this man is by no means an absolutely atrocious coach. I still think he's actually a pretty good coach. However, like Mike Budenholzer, the guy doesn't really make that many adjustments, especially when things aren't working. And it's something I don't like about him. And if you ask me, it might be time to just move on from him. How else do I put it? The man he's just not making any adjustments, which really hurts teams in the playoffs. And you need to make adjustments as a coach. It's just a basic part of being a coach. Now, obviously, I don't know the X's and O's of the game like Mike D'Antoni does, and I'm sure he would easily outcoach me, definitely. I mean, you guys see the point. With all that being said, though, I think they really should fire Mike D'Antoni. I really don't like to say people should get fired, but I do think you should. Which then brings us to the question, what about the small ball? I think small ball can actually work. If you give them a full season, which they can adjust and play with this the entire year, and it's actually good, then I think then they can actually work. They can keep the small ball, But if they really want to, they can always look for a big man who can obviously grab the rebounds and stretch the floor, which is definitely an option. However, they should still do something like the small ball where they just maximize the spacing around Westbrook so he has all the room to work with when he attacks the basket. Now, that also brings us to the question about James Harden. Now, on Twitter, I have seen a lot of people thinking that the Houston Rockets might want to trade James Harden, which here are my thoughts. Now, James Harden just did turn 31 not too long ago, actually, and he is starting to get up there in age. And before you know it, the Houston Rockets, well, their title window, this is their before you know it, they're gonna be out of contention. Their title window is closing. This is the final last few years that they have to win a championship. And James Harden, if they really do, I don't know, man. I feel like they might want to try to run it back. Now, let's just say that the Houston Rockets are disappointing, and like maybe it's the trade deadline of next year, then they can always explore James Harden or Russell Westbrook trades. Now, I want to talk a little bit about James Harden. Now, James Harden, as we all know, is one of the best players in the NBA and one of the best players in NBA history. However, even as Houston's number one, he still hasn't been able to lead them to a championship, and I want to talk about this. About, well, what's kind of holding James Harden back? And that is, well, his refusal to just play off ball. Now look, James Harden is a terrific offensive talent. I actually find it very cool with like some of the things he's done as an offensive talent, really, as in, you know, his game is essentially just give him the ball, he'll isolate on you, he'll attack the basket and draw a foul, or he'll just hit a step back three. However, here's the big problem with James Harden. The man just refuses to play off ball. I feel like he can play off ball, but the big problem is that he just isn't willing to. I mean, why do you think they broke up Chris Paul and James Harden? Well, they didn't exactly like have the best relationship, and I mean, James Harden was refusing to play off ball. I think James Harden needs to play off ball more. How else do I put it? Now, let's also talk about another part of his game, which is the fact that he is prone to having off nights. And if you ask me, it is a big issue, him having off nights. I mean, he can score 30 points, but he might be shooting 39% from the field or 21% from three and stuff like that. I mean, that's just not good. And James Harden really does need cut down, and he's also on that. And he's also developed a reputation as a playoff choker. And I mean, yeah, and sometimes in big games, he just doesn't step up. And I mean, in this Lakers series, there were Game 4, if I'm not wrong, he did not really play like it was a must-win game, even though it was. Now, I will be honest, the officiating in this playoff so far, it hasn't been that good. I mean, this Lakers series definitely had some bad officiating in it. However, it's not all the refs' fault. And if you ask me, I mean, James Harden also needs some blame for this one too. I mean, this whole team was. If you ask me, well, what is next exactly for the Houston Rockets? If you ask me, I would try to run it back. However, if things really do fail, then it might be time to just trade James Harden after a very long time. Now, Houston fans might get mad at me, which I can understand. As, well, a lot of Houston fans absolutely love James Harden. I mean, ever since, 2012 to 13, ever since that season, he has been the face of this franchise. And when you think of the Houston Rockets, you obviously think of James Harden when you think of the Houston Rockets recently. Anyways, you guys get the point. With all that being said, that's kind of just my thoughts on the Houston Rockets. They can always keep the small ball, and you know, I think they should fire D'Antoni. James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they should still keep together for maybe one more year. However, if things still don't go right for them, well, they might want to, just trade one of them and blow things up. And with all that being said, you guys, that's the end of today's video. If you guys did enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Also, share this channel with any, friends or maybe any people that you know that are fans of the NFL or the NBA. It would be greatly appreciated. Comment down your video ideas below. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. And, that's it, you guys. I'm out.